Ooh, a spicy question. I
Because
love
the
it.
writing is sort of everything, right? Like you kind of can fix plot holes, but if the writing isn't
So some
there,
readers love that, and some readers are like, but I wanted more of this. So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by a historical fiction author whose debut novel is out at the start of 2026. It's Linda Wilgus. Hello.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Thanks so much for coming on. Let's start with the book, your debut novel coming out at the beginning of the year. Tell us a little bit about The Sea Child.
Yes. Well, it's set in the early 1800s, and it's about a young woman, Isabel, who has lost her husband at the Battle of Trafalgar. And after that, she moved back to the Cornish village in which she was found as a small child, at the time dripping wet and unable to speak. And as she moves back, she learns that the local population has come to believe she's the child of a sea spirit from folklore called the Sea Buka. And so as she tries to learn more about her mysterious origins, one night, a group of smugglers brings in their wounded captain, Jack, into her cottage, believing it's still empty. And that leads to her getting involved with smuggling. She goes on lots of adventures. She goes on smuggling runs to France. She falls in love with Jack. And in the meantime, the sea begins to call to her, and that call grows stronger every day.
Okay, cool. Interesting stuff. Sort of some folklore in there with the historical fiction.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, a bit of everything. There's adventure, there's big romance, there's quite a bit of swashbuckling, and there's a dash of magic and mystery and a little folklore. I so enjoyed writing it.
And is this based on some sort of folklore and local tales that you came upon, or are you kind of creating your own folklore here?
I read about it because I've always been interested in folklore, and I grew up in a part of the Netherlands called Twente that has a very strong sort of folklore tradition, particularly to that area. And so, having visited Cornwall quite a lot and absolutely loved going there, I got really interested in Cornish folklore, and I sort of did a deep dive into learning about it. And and when I learned about the Sea Buka, I got really interested in the myth and sort of tried to weave that into the story of the Sea Child. So it's definitely it's a real myth. It's something that quite a few people still believed in up until almost 1900. I think folklore was still very much alive and well at the time as sort of a part of people's everyday lives. And and there's a few bits where I did sort of invent a bit of a backstory here and there, but most of it's definitely based on a real legend.
Okay, and that makes sense why you chose the time period for the story to be in the 1800s.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, it's a period that's always fascinated me anyway, and I love sort of the age of sail, Nelson's Navy, all that time period. So with the smuggling, that came into that, and but also I love that at the time folklore was still very much a thing that it wasn't just some odd fairy tales that people would just tell as a story. It's something that was part of everyday life for a lot of people, and something they really did believe in. So I thought that would be interesting to explore.
Okay, cool. And this is your debut novel.
Yes.
How long have you been working on it?
Well, this novel went quite quickly, but I've been sort of writing seriously for about 10 years now. And by that, I mean, I always wanted to be a writer as a child, but didn't take the time or find the time. And it's about 10 years ago when we've got 3 children. And when the youngest was about 1, I started sort of writing every day when it was his nap time. And sort of wrote a lot of short fiction at first for literary magazines. And then started writing novels. And then The Sea Child is the 4th one I wrote. So once I got to that one, because there's quite a learning curve at first to sort of learn how to structure a novel and how to write a beginning, a middle, and end that kind of worked. And once I got to The Sea Child, it was quite quickly because when I sort of got the story in my head during one of our visits to Cornwall, the whole story sort of like rolled into it quite quickly in my mind, and normally a draft would take me quite a bit longer, but we sort of got home from a trip, and I told my husband and the kids, I'm going to be writing days, nights, weekends. I got to get this story down on paper or on the laptop. And so it was a bit of a mad rush for that one. So yeah, that was about 3 years ago now.
Okay. And those first few novels, did you try to sort of take them further? Did you query agents or editors or anything with those first novels, or was this The Sea Child, was this the first time that you really tried to put it out into publishing?
No, definitely. I did query the other three, but to be fair, there was one novel before the three that were actually finished. That was sort of an ongoing project for about 5 years, and every time I got about 100,000 words into it, and decided to start over. And so that was the first sort of learning curve, and I never would have queried that. But then the three sort of finished once before The Sea Child. I did query them, but looking back, I'm actually quite happy that they didn't find any traction at the time, because they just weren't there yet. I still had a lot to learn, and really happy that The Sea Child's the one that sort of got me an agent, and then found a great home with Simon & Schuster. So.
Okay, yes. Okay, and your agent is Madeleine Milburn of the
Yes.
Madeleine Milburn Agency.
Right.
So it sounds like, you'd queried before, you'd been doing this. It was some time, your kind of journey to finding an agent. Was that through just open querying that you connected with Madeleine and she asked for the full, and then
Yes.
things went from there?
Yes, certainly. I had actually queried Maddie with my first novel, and we had a bit of a laugh about that later, because it was so not there yet. And but then with the two in between, I didn't even query her, because I thought, oh, that's not going to happen. And with the fourth, I just thought on a whim, because I'd been sending out to quite a few agents, let me just give it a try. And so there's quite a bit of agent interest for this one, and I felt very lucky with that. And then when Maddie got back to me and said, she really liked the first chapters and would like to read the full, that was a very exciting moment. So she read it. She sort of really got sort of what I was trying to do with the novel, and sent me some notes that I completely clicked with. And so then when we got on the call, there was sort of that instant click, and I knew I'd love to sign with her. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, she sort of sent you her vision of how she would edit the novel, and you were like, oh yeah, this is great.
Yes, she sent it sort of quite shortly before the call, and it was quite light edits. But at the time, not having ever done this before, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to do that? But in retrospect, it wasn't a lot. It was really good points that she made, and I thought, oh yeah, she's really sort of not only enjoys the novel, but also sort of sees what I'm trying to do with it, and I absolutely love that. So I felt really lucky to work with her.
Yeah, amazing. And then once you had signed, the two of you, obviously the next part of the process is you did your edits. Once the two of you decided it was ready to go to editors, you start sending it out again. You go back on submission.
Right.
You'd obviously you'd been writing novels for a bit. You'd queried over a few different novels. I imagine you were used to like long waits. Was it another long wait before you found a publisher for The Sea Child?
No, actually, it went really fast, which was, again, so lucky, because I was absolutely prepared to, wait a long time. And I know that a lot of times on submission, it could sometimes just not go anywhere. So I was quite worried that what if it wouldn't sell? But then, I guess there was interest quite quickly. So in the end, it was just a few weeks before we went to auction with it. And it had actually sold in France first, which was I thought was really cool, because in the book they do go to France, and there's a few chapters set in Brittany and France, and so that was sort of like a confidence boost. But I still quite nervous about the whole process, not having done that before. So then it sold in the end quite quickly, actually, which again, very lucky, especially since. I never did any courses, and I never had any sort of like, connections in the literary world. So I kind of did feel like quite the newcomer in that sense, and not out of my depth, not knowing how it all would like, kind of unfold. But so that's been a learning curve too. It's quite interesting.
Oh, okay. So that whole time when you were kind of just writing by yourself, was it literally just like no one had seen any of your manuscripts other than when you queried them to agents?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, just my husband, who very kindly read them. He reads a lot of nonfiction, but he made a nice
Okay.
exception for. He does read fiction sometimes, but not much. But he made an exception for these books, and it was very, very encouraging, which was lovely. But yeah, I was quite scared to show it to people, to be honest, and I also didn't really know any other writers or anybody that I could sort of like show it to and feel that they would sort of like tell me honestly and not just say, oh, that's nice, or
Hmm.
so yeah, the agents were sort of the first that saw it at the time.
Yeah. And in terms of the deals that you found, France, like you said, but then obviously UK and then
Yes.
US. I noticed
Yes.
that the US one is coming out first. Was that just a logistical scheduling thing, or was that a deal that was signed off before the UK one?
No, it was. I think it was about 6 weeks later that we got the US deal.
Oh, okay.
But it was really just logistics. I think they had it planned for their fall 25 sort of schedule, and that was for some reason that ends in January 26. It's the end of that fall period, and then
Yeah.
in the UK it's scheduled for spring 26. So that starts in February. So they're still quite close together, but yeah, there's a couple of weeks between.
Okay. Right. And you touched on it earlier when we talked about your edits with your agent, but when so I would imagine you underestimated the editorial process when you did
Yes.
actually start working with the publisher. How did
Yes.
that go for you?
Well, I had a good conversation with really great conversation actually with author friend of mine, Liz Fenwick, who also writes gorgeous novels set in Cornwall. And this
I've
was
had Liz on the podcast. Yeah.
have you? Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, she's so lovely, and she gave me all these tips about when the edits come. It's going to be stressful, but you can do this which was so good. And that was literally a couple of days before I got my first set of developmental edits, and so I thought I was quite prepared for pretty much anything. And I thought if I have to rewrite massive chunks or a third of the book, or that'd be fine. And then when I got my edits, the only thing that turned out I didn't expect that was a bit tough at the start was that it was my UK editor, Claire Hay, was working together with my US editor, Senna Porter, who are both absolutely wonderful. But in their edits, there were quite a few sort of bigger issues that they didn't quite agree on. And it sort of forced me to find the middle way, which in the end I feel made the book a lot better. Like it totally worked. But when I first got those notes, I thought, oh gosh, there's a few points where there's no way I could make them both happy. And of course, being a debut author, I really wanted to make them happy. And
Yeah.
I could see both their points too. Like some instances I could see, oh yeah, I see why she would ask that, but then I also could see why the other one would say, no, I disagree. And so I had to sort of like kind of find my way in that. And then it all worked out. I think it definitely made the book a lot better. And any edit notes that have come after that have been easier in that sense. So
Okay. So obviously that's like the sort of developmental stage, and then there's
yes.
copy edits, line edits. How did you find the sort of copy edits and the line edits, the more in the sort of minutiae of the thing?
Well, after developmental edits, I felt like the line edits were sort of they're quite intense in how there's quite a lot of them, but I did find them a whole lot easier. And
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So it was no disagreements, no big plot points that needed changing, no things needing to be moved around much. So altogether, once those came in, I kind of felt like, yeah, okay, I got this now. I
Yeah.
can do this.
Okay. In terms of like that process of once you're with the publisher, you're working with an editor or multiple editors, and you're getting presented with cover art suggestions and things like that. Did any of it surprise you, or was it kind of what you expected was going to happen?
In terms of the cover, I was nervous about it because people always say, "Oh, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover," but I think we do, and I think everyone in a bookshop, will look at a cover and say, "Oh, I like that cover," might pick up the book and see what it's about, and
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I also read that it's one of the things that as an author you don't have a whole lot of control over,
Yeah.
so I felt extremely lucky when I did see the covers for both the UK and US edition because they're absolutely gorgeous. And for the US one, I got several options, and it was very clear which one sort of I felt fit the book the best and sort of like conveyed that sense of mystery and magic that's in the story. And yeah, so I'm extremely pleased with them. And yeah, the nervousness was not necessary in the end. They're very lovely.
Okay. So and they basically presented you with them, and then they went with the one that you chose.
Yes, yeah, and I think my
Okay.
editor felt that was her favorite as well, and I
Okay.
could see why, because the other ones were they're also really lovely, but they're a bit more sort of traditional with sort of a figure on the front and a seascape. And then the one for the US one we chose was, I feel it's quite unusual. It's just the color really pops. It's sort of a turquoise blue. And then the figure of the main character is sort of part of the lettering of the title, which is quite cool. So I think it was neat to see how it was quite different, and yet it really sort of captured the vibe of the story, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's all you can hope for is, that you're going to like the covers, because as you say,
Yes.
you get some input, but you don't get,
Right.
final kind of say or input or
Yes.
anything. So
Yeah, I think it's tough too, because I think as an author, if you were to maybe have to go against it because you said, "Oh, I really don't like that," then what if they were to listen to that, but then if it didn't sell as well as everyone would hope, would you sort of start to question that? Because in the end,
yeah,
they know what
yeah,
sells. Do you know what I mean? So I was really happy not to have to question anything, because I was happy as they were. So yeah.
yeah. And obviously the sort of the one of the final kind of parts of releasing a book in terms of what you need to do on the publishing side of things is the promoting and the marketing, like you're doing
Yes.
right now, just being here on this podcast. How
Right.
are you
Yes.
finding
Lovely.
that part of the process?
I find it really exciting, actually.
Yeah.
I'm quite an introverted person by nature, but somehow when it's meeting what I like to call book people and talk about books and talk about writing, and it just sort of seems to come a lot more natural to me than it would usually. Yeah, it's been actually really lovely, and I've sort of I never really did much with social media, for example, and after the book deal, I got on Instagram and on X, and sort of started posting there, thinking, oh, I don't know if this is for me at all. And but then it turned out to be such a good experience, actually, because I've met so many both readers that haven't read it yet or have read the advanced reader copy now, which is exciting, but that have really been very supportive already about the book. But then also to sort of had the chance to meet other authors that way, and have actually formed some lovely friendships offline that we met up after meeting via social media, that we now get to meet up regularly and do just that, talk books and writing, which, yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think sometimes when people are releasing their kind of debut novel and they're not sure how much they're going to have to do in terms of the marketing stuff, it can be, some people, it can be quite daunting. But yeah, it
Right.
sounds like you've had a great experience from it.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I expect it might get busier as we get closer too. But
Yes.
I'm extremely lucky in that this is now my full-time job. So I also feel like,
Mm-hmm.
any time I can spend on helping the book along, I'm so happy to spend. And then if that means that the actual writing, the next thing, takes a step back for a little bit, that's just fine, because it's all sort of part of the job. And I feel so lucky to get to do it. So yeah, it's no complaints. It's wonderful.
Yeah, amazing. Before we head over to the cabin, I just wanted to
Yes.
ask one more thing, and that was, so now that the book's almost out, you've basically gone through the publishing journey from start to finish, and you would, you said you've been dreaming about this since you've always wanted to publish a novel. It was always something you wanted to
Yes.
do. Do you have any advice now that you've kind of almost done it that you would give to your younger self back when you were thinking, oh, one day I'll publish a novel?
Yes. I suppose just that it's very worthwhile reaching for the dream, because for many years I just thought that was completely out of my reach.
Mm-hmm.
I always did want to write a book, but got busy with job, young kids. My husband used to be a Navy officer, so we moved around a lot, and it was busy, and just kind of always put it off, thinking, oh, that's, yeah, that sounds fun, but it would never go anywhere. And so I guess
Yeah.
if I would be able to, give any advice to my younger self, I'd say just go for it, because it's worth reaching for it. And And the writing itself is such a joy. Even if nobody were to read it, it would be still a wonderful thing to do. I'd still love it. But of course, knowing that people will read it is, such a joy. It's very, very cool. So yeah, I guess that would be it. And the other one would be, whether I bet everyone says this, but it would be just stick with it. Persistence is key. The only way you'll never get there with publishing would be if you just stop, and that would be a real shame, I think.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I think that's great advice. So it's time for me to ask you, Linda, if you were snowed in at a cozy woodland cabin in the middle of nowhere, what book would you hope to have with you?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and I've heard the question asked about the desert island. So I'd sort of prepared to go to desert island with my book. And a cozy cottage sort of changes the vibe. But I guess it would still be sort of the same. I had originally considered my favorite book ever, which is even 20-something years after first reading it, is For Whom the Bell Tolls by Hemingway. But it's obviously quite a sad and tragic story. So I sort of thought, if you're alone by yourself, in this case, snowed in, it's cold, it's pretty dark, and you reread that a whole bunch of times, it might get quite depressing. So then I'd considered, well, you'd want some company, more so maybe on the desert island, but in a snowed in cabin as well. I would imagine that, if you're by yourself, the characters in the book would sort of become sort of friends to you. So they should be nice people. And I gave a little consideration to A Place of Greater Safety by Hilary Mantel, because I absolutely love it, and it's a big book, so it keeps you busy. But then you'd be snowed in with Robespierre, and that wouldn't be good either. So in the end, I have settled on HMS Surprise by Patrick O'Brian, because I absolutely loved the series when I first read it. And I think I would, be able to stomach the company of the main characters for quite a while. And I'd enjoy rereading that quite a few times before I'd get bored, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's great choice. I appreciate the your sort of first and second thoughts on that. It's always interesting to hear what people go through to reach the final answer.
Snowed-in cottage sort of changes the vibe. It's almost to be something a bit warm, and I'd have to really give that possibly some more thought in my free time. So yeah.
Well, I wanted to mix it up because I feel like there was too much Bear Grylls and too much How to Build a Raft.
Yes. I did think about survival books, and I thought, no, I don't think I'd enjoy them as much. But yeah.
But that's great. Some great suggestions there, and the nice final answer. So, next up, we are going to chat a bit more about Linda's writing style and her writing process. That will all be available at patreon.com/rightandwrong.
Absolutely loved, but the horror ones I can't do. And but just reading about his process was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty successful, I would say.
Oh yes, so quite.
Always good to learn from people at the top of their game.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, that brings us to the end of the interview. Thank you so much, Linda, for coming on and telling us all about everything that you've been up to, your kind of writing and publishing journey. It's been really great chatting with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jamie. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you. Thanks for having me.
And for everyone listening, The Sea Child is out January 20th in the US and February 12th in the UK. If you want to keep up with what Linda is doing, you can find her on Instagram at Linda J. Wilgus, or you can head over to her website, lindawilgus.com. To support this podcast, like, follow, and subscribe. Join the Patreon for ad-free extended episodes, and check out my other podcast, The Chosen Ones and Other Tropes. Thanks again to Linda, and thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you on the next episode.